Hello, everybody. Okay, so today for this episode, we're going to talk about the steps to actually process emotions in your body. So if you haven't listened yet, make sure that you listen to the previous episode 118, talking about emotional intelligence and how to look at your emotions in a very practical lens in a way where you can actually understand it that might be helpful for you and for your life right now. And after that, make sure that you listen to this episode, which is all about like, so you might be wondering, like, okay, how do I actually do it? Right? What does that actually look like for me? And the steps to actually doing that. So I have never done this before. So I'm going to share this for the first time on this podcast episode, the steps to actually process emotions with your body. This is the actual practice and exercise I take my one-on-one clients through for them to actually understand. And so this is a six-step process to processing any kind of emotions that can exist in your body. Most of the time, it'll work so much better if it's like a strong heightened emotion that's coming up in a way where we can really address it and we can really help you be able to experience and process through it in a very helpful manner. And so I created this process with a various with my own experience of just coaching private clients over the last 4 years, as well as with like various trainings and learnings I learned from my life coaching certificate from Rhodes Wellness College, as well as from other mentors over the years, such as Brooke Castillo, Dr. Nicola Pera, Melissa Pierce, Luis Mojica, all of these amazing trainers and practitioners. So this is kind of like my way of doing it after a lot of experience and just taking a lot of learnings and what I learned from a certification over the years into a combination of like these very six simple and easy steps to help you start experiencing and practicing being with your body and being able to process your emotions so much better. Okay. So again, this is a step-by-step process and it works with like strong positive emotions as well as negative emotions. Most of the time people address it in a way where they want to attend to their negative emotions. But I just want to offer that when you become very, very kind of like more experienced with this method, you can apply it to positive emotions. And so instead of like processing in the emotions, you can intentionally create positive emotions that you want in your body, such as the feeling of joy, the feeling of love, the feeling of excitement, the feeling of gratefulness, right? And openness. Those all require you to connect with your body so much more. And so I hope that this is helpful for you. Okay. And I made it, and don't worry, I made it like very simple, very easy for you to follow. And these offer like great anchor points for you to start practicing on your own. All right. So the first thing to really keep in mind, and if you listen to a previous episode, you will know I talked about this, is that the emotions are energy emotion and they exist in your body, right? They're not just in your head. They're not in your head where you're just talking about it. Because if you're just talking about it, then that is like you're just stuck in your head, right? Like when you're overthinking, you're like stuck in your head. You're not truly connecting with your body and feeling the emotion as a physical sensation that's coming up in your body. So the first thing that you always want to keep in mind is when you feel something and it happens in your body, right? So let's say someone says something, you get triggered, you're like, okay, oh my gosh, I'm feeling something in the body. I'm feeling something. I don't know what this is. Instead of being in your head, the first thing that you want to do is bring your attention down to your body. That's the very first step. Okay. Attention down to your body. know that all emotions occur and you feel them in your body. So the first thing that you want to do is pay attention, bring attention down to your body. And the second thing that you want to do is start noticing. Just kind of notice specific area or areas in your body where you can feel the sensation that is happening. It could be your throat. It could be in your chest. Maybe you feel something in your stomach, right? Maybe your shoulders start being tense. Maybe your fingers go cold. So kind of notice specific areas in your body where you're feeling something. Step number 2. Step number 3 is you allow. So after you have brought attention down to your body, after you notice wherever it is happening, okay? So let's say you feel someone says something and you get triggered by it. And so in that moment, you're like, okay, I remember Shirley said that emotions happen in the body. So step number 1, let me bring attention to my body. Step number 2, let me notice area or areas in my body where I'm feeling that triggering, right? It could be maybe you're like, okay, I feel something in my chest. Okay, something's happening in my chest. Number 3, you allow that feeling to be there. So what you can do is you can allow yourself to take deep, slow breaths and kind of breathing into that space. So breathing into the area in your chest where you feel it. And as we are breathing into that chest, into that space where you feel it, we're not trying to push it away. We're not trying to avoid that feeling and like pretend to like breathe into it, to like lessen it and then to make it go away. No, that's not the point. What we're doing is we're allowing it to be there. When we breathe into it, we are creating more space for it to take presence in that area in your body, for it to take presence in your body. Okay, so number 3, you allow it to be there. And then step number 4, after you allow it to be there so much more, then what you can start practicing is see if you can name out what this emotion is. So an emotion is a one-word answer, okay? So what it is could be anger, sadness, joy. Maybe you are disappointed. Maybe instead of anger, you're actually frustrated. Maybe you are feeling peaceful. Maybe you are feeling small. Maybe you are feeling limited. Notice these are all one-word answers. Okay. And so what you can do is you can even Google up. So if you have your phone with you right now, and if you are at an okay place to look at your phone, search up the wheel of emotions. What you're going to find is you will see a whole wheel, a whole list of emotions that you can practice for yourself. So this is really important because for a lot of us, whenever people ask us, how do you feel? Right away, we talk about how we actually think, right? So we're like, oh, I feel like my dad shouldn't say this. I feel like my business is overwhelming, right? We start to describe how we feel in terms of our thoughts, in terms of how we're actually thinking about. But that's not actually the actual emotion that we feel. The actual emotion is one word. Maybe you feel self-pity. Maybe you feel relaxed. Maybe you feel stressed. Maybe you are worried, right? Notice is one word. And so step number 4, once you allow that sensation to be here in your body, you kind of like get used to it. And if possible, see if you can name out one word of that emotion that you are actually feeling, right? So maybe you're actually feeling angry. Maybe you're actually feeling frustrated. And so kind of like to name it out loud, it gives you that cognitive ability to be able to actually understand what is happening right now. So maybe you're like, okay, I feel triggered. Oh, I'm actually feeling frustrated. Oh, I'm actually feeling annoyed, right? And a lot of the time, simply by naming it out and calling it out as it is, already will help you so much more, right? Than like not knowing what's happening and like start thought looping and start overthinking in your head, right? So bring attention down to your body. Notice area in your body where you actually feel this feeling. Allow it to be there. Breathe into it to give it more space and more presence. Name it out loud if possible. Sometimes in the moment, you might not actually be able to name it out, and that's okay. Name it out if it's possible. Okay. And step number 5, what we want to do is we want to give it context. So what it means is you want to kind of start describing this feeling in your body in terms of physical sensations, physical and like visceral sensations that you actually feel, right? Because again, what it is kind of like, it's kind of like, you know how when you are meditating, you are, sometimes they say you want to become the watcher of your thoughts, right? Instead of being your thoughts, you watch your thoughts. That's the same thing with processing emotions. You want to watch and observe your emotion, becoming a watcher of it to actually understand it and being present with it instead of identifying yourself with the emotion. It's more like we are watching the emotion as it is happening in your body. Okay, so in step number 5, you want to give it more context. So describe what it is, right? If you can be with this anger right now in your chest, how big is this anger? Is it taking up your entire chest, or is it very targeted in a specific area in your chest? Does it have any weight? Is that space in your chest, does it feel heavy, or is it light? Is it kind of like floating, or is it very, very like settled in, or is it very deep, right? Is it moving in any way, or is it very still? How fast is it moving? If it has a shape, what shape would it be? If you can imagine it to look like something, what will it look like? Does it have any texture to it? Is it very smooth? Does it have a temperature, right? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it warm? Notice how I'm describing it. Because a lot of times when we just, what it really is like, it's just energy that's moving through you, right? It's like contraction of muscles and tensions in your body. And it's very hard for us to make sense of it. And so what we do is we want to give it more context for us to really understand it, to feel it actually in your body, along with all of its temperature, its weight, its feeling, its shape, its movement, right? We want to give more context to this energy that's existing there. And so that's what you want to do for step number 5, to give it context. And step number 6 is you let yourself to experience, to just be here and experience it. Okay. So what it looks like is continue to be with it, watching its presence, noticing it if it changes. What you're going to find is with a lot of emotions is a lot of times it just wants to be felt, it just wants to be acknowledged and to be seen, and for you to make space for it to be there. And once that we give it enough space, what you're going to find is that the emotion somehow it lessens, especially with negative emotions, it lessens, it moves, and you're kind of like be able to connect with it so much better in a way where you understand where and how the emotion wants to move in your body, and we let it move, right? You can ask it questions. If it has a message for you right now, what would it want you to know, right? If it wants to move to anywhere else in your body, maybe it wants to go down to your stomach instead of being stuck in your chest. Maybe it wants to be more spread out instead of being targeted, right? Maybe it just wants to tell you something. And so step number 6 is really creating that open minded space for you to allow and experience it fully as it is happening in your body. Okay. And that is all. 6 steps for processing your emotion. Step number 1, you bring attention to your body. Step number 2, you notice specific area or areas of your body where it exists. Number 3, you allow it to be there. Number 4, you name out what the emotion is and you label it, you give it a name. Step number 5, you give it more context. Step number 6, you allow yourself to experience it with open-mindedness and without judgment and without resistance. What you're going to find, okay, there's actually a study on this. There's a Harvard study on this. is that when you actually allow an emotion to be there without resisting it, without trying to make it go away, the whole process from naming an emotion to allowing it to exist in your body until it dissipates, the whole process, it just takes 90 seconds. That is all, 90 seconds, right? Now, what prolongs this process is when we resist it, when we don't acknowledge it being there, when we don't become present with it, when we're stuck in our head, right? That's when it takes so much longer than 90 seconds. But when you can truly be with it without judgment, with open-mindedness, and just kind of like observe it and watching it like a friend and from like a very objective and scientific perspective, to just be with it, it just takes 90 seconds for this emotion to be here and for you to process it over time, right? A lot of times people continue to avoid it, continue to not look at it. And in general, I think there's just a lack of knowledge and information out there of actually how to process this somatic experience in your body. And so people don't process it. And so what happens is there's actually a lot of emotions and energy stuck in our bodies, right? Stuck in parts of our bodies that kind of just is stuck there over time. And so emotions get built up, tension gets built up. And so over time, they turn into chronic conditions and chronic illnesses that can exist in your body, right? And this is the reason why a lot of us, and some of them, some of these emotions, they can last there for like years, decades even. And we wonder why like our neck is always sore. We wonder why we have like this tension in our back that never really goes away, right? There could be feelings that's stuck there, energy, like intense charges in your body that's been there for a very, very long time from your experiences from the past that's still then linger into this day, right? And this is the reason why processing your emotions is so important, because they can turn into physical illnesses over time. And so, and again, like this, I made this process into like a very simple step-by-step process for you to follow. It's practical, it's helpful for you to follow. And just know that we can also be very, very flexible with this, right? Once you become more used to the idea of connecting with your body this way, of being in touch with your emotions this way, then sometimes you might be able to jump through step number 1 to step number 3 and be able to simply just very quickly name out the emotion and be able to drop into your body and to be able to give a context right away, right? And so just know that even though it's a step-by-step process, you may be able to jump around and you may be able to go to something very fast because you're a lot more used to it. You're a lot more routine with how to connect with your body, right? But in the beginning, it will take some practice. It might be awkward at first because so many of us, we have been so disconnected from our bodies over time. Okay. And again, like this is a practice. Listening to it, can only like you won't be able to just know it, but to actually know it, right? To actually know how to practice it, apply it, it requires actual application and actual you being present and working yourself out through this process to be able to understand what it actually is. This is why if you listen to a next episode, I share with you a live example of an actual exercise of the somatic practice that I took my client through to really help you to understand and actually be able to practice along with it as it happens in your body. Okay, so make sure you listen to the next episode and you can come back and listen to this episode so that it can be so much more helpful for you, and re-listen, take notes so that you will be able to understand this process so much better. All right. Hope you find this helpful. I will talk to you next time.